Welcome to the Silver Creek Insights podcast. I'm your host, Felisa Wiley. Today, I'm joined by a leader who has built a reputation for driving large scale transformation while maintaining a focus on innovation and security. With us is Praveen Kamsetti, CIO, digital transformation leader, and the creator of the 4L leadership framework. From leading global M&A integrations to strengthening cybersecurity and building high performance offshore teams, Praveen has seen it all. Praveen, welcome to the show. To kick us off, can you share how your leadership journey evolved?
Thank you, Felisa. Thanks for that kind words. I'm excited to be part of here. So my journey started probably 26 years ago. I came from India back in 1999. That's almost like 26 years ago. Um, so I started my career in New York City in the financial industry. I worked there for almost like a decade there in financial industry. I used to live in New Jersey. Fantastic, right? During the time, 99. And then I moved to pharmaceutical industry, or I would say medical device industry, after working in decade in a financial industry. And then I worked there for almost like 4.5 years. And then I worked in pharmaceutical, and back in 2016, my family moved to Austin, Texas for a good opportunity. All in all, it's 26 years of journey, various diverse industries for pharmaceutical, financial, medical device, and technology, and recently in telecommunication industry. And then lucky enough and very fortunate to have various different leadership roles, all the way from individual contributor to CIO level in the global companies, global teams across Asia, Europe, America, right? And then work with wonderful leaders in my 26 years of journey. And here I am.
That is a lot, but I honestly, your trajectory is kind of the dream. I don't think anyone starts off being an IC wanting to forever be an IC. For those that do, like, do your thing, but you actually moved up. You climbed the corporate ladder. Do you know how hard that is to do nowadays?
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but at the same time, a lot of coaching and mentorship from great leaders. Like I
Mhm.
said, I always tell people that once you start your goal, once you want to solve the business problems and start putting your efforts and work for the great leaders, and automatically the I don't know what you call corporate ladder or whatever, but you should be able to get the opportunities to lead, opportunity to solve the business problems, whether we call it the digital transformation today,
Mhm.
security, and we have the artificial intelligence today. So all these are the technologies, right? It will give you an opportunity to solve the business problems, make your customers happy about it, and
Mhm.
at the end of the day, make the numbers. That's what the business is all about.
They care about those end metrics. What led you to focus so heavily on operational excellence?
Um, so operational excellence, I'm always, innovation and operation, excellence go hand in hand, right? If you have a strategy, which is good, but if you don't have execution, if you don't execute in an optimized way, that means your strategy is going to fail. So as a leader, I think you need to have both ends. Put a vision and strategy, and at the same time, you need to have a team who can, execute in an optimized way. So operations is always one of the key things for me to make sure that we have a reliable, right, high performing services delivered to the customers. One of the things in my career, when we moved to Austin from New Jersey in 2016, I worked for a company called Axiom Corporation. So this is a data company. I'm not going to give a lot of details, but it's a data, it's more of a campaigning marketing data company. They have a lot of customers, pretty much all the, retail industry, financial industries are their customers. And that means they have a lot of SLAs to meet, right? So that's where, I saw the operational excellence giving their business value, because for the customers, if you're looking at it, the SLAs has to be met. Those are all very tight knitted SLAs. Some of them are financial implications, some of them reputational, right? Meeting the SLAs were the key for them. So it's not just innovation, but it's also the operational excellence. How can we meet that performance, what needed for the customers, right? So that's why I always look into strategy and operation would go hand in hand.
No, it makes sense, and I like that you said, like, if you don't have execution, your strategy will fail. You could be the smartest business strategist, but if you
Yeah,
can't actually execute your ideas and your plans in an efficient manner, what
yeah.
good is it, unfortunately? So, you mentioned Axiom, right?
Mhm.
And that's where you led cloud migration and data center consolidation. It was that was at both Axiom and Novartis, right? What
Okay.
were the most unexpected challenges during these migrations?
For the There are a lot of challenges. During the 2012, that's to 2010, that area, cloud was upcoming, right? A lot of customers are moving to cloud. There are some challenges, especially people who are not ready to. Some of the customers, like retail industry, banking industry, not ready to move to the cloud. They're afraid of the security, right? The compliance issues were not really clearly meant. The governance was not clearly meant.
Mhm.
Some of the data privacy was not clearly meant. Those are the some of the challenges initially we had. But I think the commercial cloud, all the cloud like AWS, Azure, they are pretty much into all the security governance are well built in. But initially, when we started this migration, that's one of the key things to look at it too. And then the hybrid model, some of them are our own data center, some of them are in cloud. How do we build the monitoring systems, whether it is a governance, right, whether it's the security policies? It's kind of a learning curve for us at that
Mhm.
moment of time. The other thing I will tell you is one of the things cloud will give you is cloud is definitely an innovative way to innovate your applications, gives a lot of capability for new capabilities, new features. But at the same time, you have to be disciplined enough to manage very well for cost effectiveness. So
Mhm.
in very early stages, everybody was okay. Cloud is going to cost effective, but people may not know. It depends on what kind of workloads you run on the cloud. So that
No.
was a challenge. It's a learning curve for I think not just us, but a lot of customers. Right? How do we can move it, but it's not cost effective. They will realize after a couple of years. Uh,
Mhm.
so what kind of workloads you need to move to the cloud? That was the biggest challenge that time because we need to have a new capabilities, innovation. At the same time, we need to have cost efficiency. So
Yeah.
that's why the operations, what we talked about earlier, is makes sense. Just innovation and operations go in hand in hand to make it as a new feature, new innovation, but at the same time cost effective, efficient way.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is a lot of teams are fairly siloed in what they do. So for innovation, I would think the data engineers, the product team, maybe we have the leaders, but for the
Yeah.
operations, we have the operations team, whether it's like customer operations, whether it's data, machine, ML ops.
Mhm.
So it's like one challenge that I see a lot of companies facing is you have these siloed, you have someone trying to do the strategy, but they don't actually know how to like have it trickle down.
Yeah. We have a similar issue for the similar challenge, not issue, but similar challenge for the Axiom also. Like I say, it's a data company, so they have all these silo models, silo teams
Mhm.
for each customers, right? Or some multiple customers, like Walmart has their own team, Capital One has their own team, kind of thing. People who are supported Capital One have their own team, Walmart support their own team. So one of the things which my boss at time brought me in was to bring all these silo model into a shared support model, build a shared support, a solid IT. So that's one of the things we did initially, bring everything from silo model to shared support model to meet our customer SLAs, right? Because if you do have a silo model, the support is going to be very inconsistent. Some of
Mhm.
with a good SLA met, and some of them you don't even meet those. So in order to have this SLAs meeting and then have a consistent support to our customers, our CIO wanted to bring all these silo model into a shared support model, and that's what we did very fast. And then, our journey started from there, from legacy systems to how do we get new capabilities built into our customers. That's when cloud opportunities open up for us.
So, can you walk me through what a shared support model is and how you worked through that strategy of turning it from siloed to shared?
Yeah. So one of the things we need to have to bring into, first of all, is I call it as a people, processes, and technology (PPT). Right. So you have a people. who are supporting the resources for various different customers. Like I said, silo model support teams.
Hmm.
Then you have processes. When you have a different team, you have processes. Each customer has a different process. You don't have a standardization built in, right? They're processing their own way of doing it. And the technology is also same thing. People have, every customer uses their own, every team uses their own technology. So when you have this completely loose silo model, right? Decentralized silo model, then you have a problem. The biggest thing what we need to do is standardize it. How do we standardize our processes? How do we standardize our tools and technologies? That's why I call it as a PPT, people, process, and technologies. Once we build a standardization, then it will be easy for us to bring everybody to one support model. So if you don't have a standardization in terms of processes, in terms of technology, then everybody uses their own, then you will not be able to meet a consistent customer experience.
I'm so happy that you walked me through this because unknowingly, this is something that I'm currently working on with a client that I'm doing. So, some background. Originally, they were fairly siloed. We have finance, we have product, we have operations, and I'm working with them and I'm trying to like break down walls and come have them all come together in order to let me know what their shared metrics are,
Yeah.
instead of them working like individually. So I didn't realize it, but I think that is a
Yeah.
shared support model.
Yeah, I think you brought another point, which is shared metrics, right?
Mhm.
How do we measure,
Yeah.
right? You need to have a standardized metrics to measure for each of the customers. So if you have a standardized metrics, and then you should be able to see the feedback, how are we doing it in terms of services to our customers? Right? And also the most important is security, whether it's a
Yeah.
privacy, whether it is a security, data security. You need to make sure that you have to standardize. Otherwise, securing each one as a separate entity is going to be a nightmare for enterprise organizations.
Wow. No, that's amazing. Oh, this stuff makes me so happy. So, reflecting on your early career from Stryker to Novartis, what core principles shaped you during that time?
Stryker to Novartis. Stryker is a medical device company. I'll tell you how I got the opportunity in Stryker.
Yeah.
I used to work for, I think I mentioned, in financial industry for almost a decade. Um, I had a opportunity to work with ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, for financial side of it. That experience, gave me an opportunity in Stryker because I have that ERP experience. In Stryker, it's a very different journey because Stryker is a medical device company, and previous one was a financial industry. The plus point there was, the technology is kind of portable. It's kind of
Mhm.
sometimes it kind of industry agnostic. That helped me a little bit. But when it comes to Stryker, again, it's a lot of FDA. It's a highly regulated industry, right? And then it's a pretty big global company. And I was a global support manager for the ERP for manufacturing and supply chain. And we built our offshore team in India. So it's a very different journey. It's a learning experience for me in terms of technology, in terms of team building, in terms of a global company, in terms of regulations. In the financial industry, we do have SOX as a regulation, but in addition to that, if you go to um, medical industry, healthcare industry, as you know, is highly regulated. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of learning for me there, but it's a definitely one of the key turning point in my career to Stryker as a company, and I.
Wow.
I got a great opportunity to work for one of the great leaders in Stryker, so they kind of mentored me and then coach
Mhm.
to grow my career. So
So we mentioned mentorship. How and you said that that was one way that really like helped spur your career trajectory. How did you find these mentors? Like you mentioned finding someone, having someone at Stryker. How did you approach like them becoming your mentor, like helping you throughout? Like how did that come about?
So I am always a very curious person. I want to learn things. I want to look at it, how things work. And at the same time, that curiosity led me to the people person. I'm always people person. I want to talk to people, learn about them. How do they do it, right? So the curiosity, the people person, got me into growth mindset.
Mhm.
So what I used to do as an individual contributor, also very early stages of my career, I always used to pay attention to when the leaders talk, in the all employee meeting or, leaders chit chat, any opportunity I have. to listen to the leaders, I used to go there and I used to pay attention to. Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Anything related to people, anything related to leading organization, because I thought it's a super critical because in an
Mhm.
organization where you have 30,000, 40,000 employees, you need to have a leader who can influence, right?
Mhm.
So that's where I got into, and then some of my leaders, noticed that I have some leadership skills and I have some, the growth mindset. So that's how started working with them, and that's how they encouraged me to lead the teams and whatever, right? So that's how it started. But the most important point here is that your curiosity, your relations with your teammates or with your peers, with your customers, and your growth mindset that will eventually lead you into the hands of a great leaders. And that's what happened to me.
What's that quote? Great leaders recognize great leaders or something like that?
I think
That's
so, right?
yeah. I just may have made that up as well. But it's so true. I love how you mentioned that you're actively listening to these people, and I think that's also very special because they're just people too. Imagine hosting a talk and then no one shows, but then we have one person that's Praveen sitting. Like they were probably so like happy. Everyone wants to learn from them.
Yeah, that will help. That actually led me into my 4L leadership, which I always talk about, right?
Mhm.
Lead with empathy, lead for business results, lead by example, and lead with emotional intelligence. So those actually came from those leaders because when I look at them, when you are making a big change, when you transform the organization, there must be a very powerful tool to do that. It's not just a policy. It's not just what you talk about it. There is something that you need to have a powerful tool to influence that 30,000, 40,000 people and to transform that multi-billion-dollar organization. And that's where I found that empathy is plays a very big role on it, right? When the leaders lead with empathy, when the leaders lead by example, you see a transformational change not just in one team but entire organization. And I've seen tremendous results. My leaders, I've seen people who are leading with empathy. I've seen tremendous success in their careers and for companies, and I've seen personally also that in my personal as well as in my career. So tremendous results with that. That's why I call it as a 4L leadership.
I love that. You said empathy, emotional intelligence, and what were the other 2?
Yeah, so first L is lead with empathy, lead
Okay.
for business results because empathy is good, but empathy has to come with accountability. Then you
Mhm.
can, at the end of the day, you need to make a results, business results, right? So that's why you lead with empathy, with accountability, lead for business results, lead by example, and lead with emotional intelligence.
Okay, I'm writing all this down, by the way, in my notes. Review people later. And I'm so happy that you expanded on the lead with empathy to include accountability because
Yeah.
I'm certain you've worked with leaders who aren't the best leaders. And the first thing that I remember when dealing with a leader who was not the best leader is no accountability. Always like pointing the finger somewhere else, never saying, I was wrong with this direction. We should have done something else. And
Yeah.
it's just for someone who's able to say, I messed up. It makes them more human. It makes them also, they're willing to learn. One, if
Right.
they're going to acknowledge that, they're also going to probably learn. They're probably embarrassed. We're human. We get embarrassed so leading with empathy is such a huge one, and especially coming with that accountability. I'm so happy that you added that in there.
Yeah, it's definitely. And then the other key for successful business results for anybody is make sure your goals are clearly communicated and clearly
Mhm,
transported to your teams, right? Everybody in your team making sure that they need to understand the business goals, what we're trying to solve as a team.
mhm,
So I always talk in my podcast and in my my anywhere, right, when I write articles, talk about it is um, technology is just a tool, right? Even for today, AI, it's a AI. When your strategy for AI is always a business aligned with your business strategy, right? What is business trying to solve? Not just
mhm,
a tiny tool, right? Then you will not be able to make a business impact, right? So look at
mhm,
the technology, align the technology and your team to the business goals, and see where we can help them to solve the business, whether it is a customer experience, whether it's a innovation, operational efficiency, cost efficiency. Uh, s- where there are so many opportunities, but the biggest key point here is the align technology and your team to the business goal. That's the key point. And every single person in your team has to understand that
Hmm.
we're trying to do, what business problem we're trying to solve, what is the innovation that's going to help our business.
And I think that's where a lot of some issues may form too, because you have the leaders, the C-suite, their business goals, and then that needs to get passed down to leaders or directors or the managers, and
Right.
that needs to get passed down to the individual contributors. And along the way, it's kind of like a game of telephone. And
Yeah.
we all played this game growing up, where one person says one thing, and the message that gets down to the end is just missed
Right.
completely. But having, like, an organized and streamlined way to distill information, be listened to, be heard, and then that's where the human part, because everyone absorbs information in their own way. For instance, so, like,
Yeah.
as a contractor, when I'm talking to, like, the CEO or leader the lead data leadership team, I always have a written report. I try to get a visualization in there, and then I try
Yeah.
to have a graph with, like, the highlighted top down, because I'm like, some people don't wanna read that five-page report. Some of them want that one-pager. Some of them don't even want a one-pager. Some of them wanna see
Yeah.
a different graph. The more ways that I could express the same end goal with them, the more that they can absorb it and understand it. And having, like, those checks and balances is so important, but I think that's where a lot of issues come place, that distillation of information. Have you ever run into any issues when it comes to, like, how information is distilled throughout companies?
Yeah, it always happens, especially when you have a bigger organizations, and sometimes your goals are not simple, right? A lot of complex environments. Um, the scale. I always tell, scale comes with the complexity, right?
Mhm.
So when you have this complex, when you have bigger teams, especially global teams, it's very easy to lose a track of what we're trying to do, right? That's, I think, a leader's responsibility. That's where leaders have to making sure that everybody is on page, on track. The communication you build with the team, the relationship you build with the team, the goals you clearly communicate with the team, that plays a bigger role. And then continuously monitoring it, like continuously talking to people,
Yeah.
not just end of the quarter you just say, hey, where are we, right? That's not going to solve the problem. So continuously working with the team, continuously monitoring how we're delivering it, and measuring our success, right, with your metrics. So that's definitely a key. That's a leader's responsibility, to making sure that the message has clearly communicated and consistent
Mhm.
to deliver the value.
Wow, that's amazing. And we previously talked about with, like, the you listening to your leaders. Who was the most influential person you've ever heard speak?
I don't know whether I should name it, but
Oh,
there are two. I'll give you a couple of examples. Right, when I worked for the Travelers, our CIO that time was fantastic. Um, and they actually one of the inspiration for me to get into leadership roles, because that's I used to listen to that. Like I said, all employee meeting and all. And then I used to work for the leaders who actually became later on became the CIO for the company, and got some award as a executive of the United States or whatever they give every year, annual executive of the US, executive of Europe, right, whatever. So he got into that. So that means, fantastic leader. I was fortunate to work under him.
yeah.
But if I look at it, two leaders I really take as inspiration for me. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, fantastic leader. If you look at him, where when he started, where the Microsoft was to where it is today, I think a tremendous transformation. And he also talks about empathy as one of the tool he used for, leverage for the transformation he did. That's a tremendous transformation. The company where it was to where it is today. The other inspirational leader for me is a former Pepsi CEO, Indra Nooyi. She was also a fantastic transformation leader. Same, I heard that they both, very empathetic leaders. So definitely there are so many leaders, but I'm just telling you these two are my inspiration. But I work with all the leaders, all my leaders. I'm very fortunate. Every single person I worked are fantastic leaders.
Oh, that's so nice to be surrounded by those that inspire and influence you. And I will say, Praveen, you're inspiring me to become a transformation leader as well.
Yeah, I think the leadership is a continuously learning effort, right? You learn with
Mhm.
you learn with what you're trying to solve. It's not a one time written on the stone. It's always continuous learning. That's why one of the things I put in my LinkedIn is continuous learning and active listening as one of the two things I want to practice every single day.
Good. Those are great soft skills that will help people so tremendously. I do think that the soft skills are what people need to improve the most in order to grow in their career. You could be the best you could be the best strategist, you could be the best coder, but if you don't know how to communicate, and you mentioned this earlier with your clear communication, if you don't know how to communicate, it's for what? Like what you won't go as far as you could.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. During the integration of, I think it's NEC Wireless
Mhm.
into Aviat, I may not be pronouncing that correctly. You onboarded 20 facilities across 9 countries. What cultural or operational hurdles did you encounter, and how did you overcome them? I know you're smiling.
That's a great story. The reason I'm smiling is when I took this position back 2 years ago, so, the day I joined the company, that's when they announced the acquisition.
Wow.
And my boss tells me to start leading the IT integration effort. So there was no just I'm using the word honeymoon. There was no honeymoon period for me there. It's just the day when I started working on the integration part of it. So NEC is a pretty big organization, as you know, Nippon Electric Company, Tokyo-based organization. We acquired a small portion of their wireless business. This is mostly in APAC area. So three things I always talk about it, right? When you do the mergers and acquisitions, three areas. I wrote an article also on this one. Very key for the success is one is your cultural integration has to happen because these two companies, no matter what, that two companies will have a different cultures, right? It can be the working culture. It can be based on the geographical location where they are operating based on the nature of the business. So you expect a different working culture, different cultures for two companies. As a leader, it's our duty to make sure that those two understand. You need to understand the cultural difference, and you need to make sure that those are all integrated.
Hmm.
The second most key part for any integration that happens to NEC as well for us is the operations. How do we do our operations? How do we do our operations? How do we integrate that? And the third most critical one is IT, information technology systems. How do we integrate them, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to see the synergies, value for them. But so if you don't
Hmm.
integrate these three, your acquisition probably is not going to see the results of what you're expecting in the synergies for both the companies. So these are the key for making sure that your acquisition is successful. And as a leader, you need to continuously communicate, continuously put a common goal to make sure these three are integrated properly. So
No.
that was a thing for us for NEC side also. There's a cultural difference. Most of it is a APAC business. It's a decentralized business for NEC. It's a very different, when you say 20 different facilities, those are all in a very different areas. One of them in Indonesia, a couple of them are in China, some of them are very geographically different locations. So it's definitely challenging. But at the same time, once you have your common goal, communicate to both the teams, making sure that you understand that the cultural difference, working cultural difference, and then the processes and policies of those two companies, understand it, and how do we integrate them, then it becomes easy for us.
Wow, that's a huge accomplishment because
Yeah.
you're working across so many different countries, different cultures, different everything. So kudos for the strategy that you incorporated and for the success of that integration.
Yeah, it's definitely a team effort. It's not a
Mhm.
but leader will lead it, but at the end of the day, it's a team effort, right? When I say team, it's not just my team, right? You need to work across the collaboration, cross collaboration with your sales team, cross collaboration with your HR team for both the companies, cross collaboration with other CIOs, and this one is several different CIOs because each one is very decentralized model. NEC has their own corporate CIO, and each organization, each country has their own CIOs and CISOs. So security, a lot of things. So the cross collaboration, understanding the cultural
Mhm.
difference, understanding the systems differences, and then once we put together for the common goals and common vision, then it will become easy for us.
Wow. And
And
then
obviously, there are some technical challenges. I'm not talking about
yes.
technical challenges. I'm talking about very bigger picture. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course. I am following along. You've done so many projects across the course of your career. Another one that I wanted to call out was you led a complex Oracle EBS upgrade in 6 months under $600,000, which was one third of vendor estimates. What was the key to pulling such efficiency without cutting corners?
Yeah. So this definitely um, falls into one of the operations, why super important operations
Yeah.
that falls into one of them. So the Oracle, any ERP is a very complicated systems where I worked, I worked with, like I said, I worked with the financial industry where I had an opportunity to work with ERP for financial side of it. When I worked with Striker, I worked with all supply chain manufacturing. That's a ERP, global ERP setup there. Same thing, Oracle EBS. Now Striker has changed it to SAP, but it was Oracle EBS when I was there back in 2012. So I had this experience of this ERP, and
Mhm.
then I know how complex it is, how critical this system is, and how much of a time consuming and dollar value complexity to upgrade the system. I know I went through this one when I was in financial side, when I was striker side. So in Aviat, the problem was it was a legacy system. We need to upgrade it, and then we went with the vendor, several different vendors. They come up with at least three times of more than what we actually achieved within the budget. So my leadership challenged me on this one that we don't want to pay that much money, and
Mhm.
there is any innovative way we can do this. Then I built a team internally, and I've seen this happen quite a bit in my previous companies also. Like I said, I have an experience on building the team in a offshore team in India and all support. So, and then what we did was we kind of a mix and match. We hired some of the people in the US, some of the people in India, and then kind of pick and choose on who can do what, right? Instead of hiring 100 people at a time,
Mhm.
how do once we make the progress of the upgrade, we kind of pick and choose the people. We had a great partners we have in India and as well as here, and then building the team, we kind of build a technical capability
Yeah.
both on site and offshore, and then we're able to do this. The time zone difference also played quite a bit of role for us in terms of achieving within a 6 months of period of time, because we're able to communicate very well. We're able to leverage these time differences of US and India offshore team, and then we are able to do that in a one third of the cost and within the timeline. Which is fantastic, and this credit is not for me. It should go to the all the team who has done this one fantastically.
No, it definitely goes to everyone involved, but just the
Yeah.
top-down leadership has to be top-notch, for that efficiency to come into play, so, that was a feat, and it got
Yeah, I want to give the two credits to two people. One is thanks to their leadership and believing in that we can do internally. That's a big thing, big step, right? Leadership
Mhm.
has to believe in that. And second one is thanks to the team who executed this. So those are the two. So the credit is not for me. That's for
Fair,
team.
very fair. Well, those leaders and you mentioned leadership, so leadership buy-in, also politics can come into play. How do you navigate getting leaders to invest in certain technologies while also playing that corporate politics game?
Yeah. Yeah, so politics is for the it's inevitable, right? You have to be part of it. I don't see that as a bad thing. It's keeping the power and keeping the when I say power, keeping making sure that they are in the good control of it. Um, the biggest thing how we overcome all these things, right, is once you understand the business goals, what business is trying to do. Once you are fully invested your time and your talent into the solving the business problem and achieving the business goals and objectives, and automatically you will be collaborating with all your stakeholders and your peers and your customers and your leaders. So whatever that politics you mentioned about it, that will fade away. Actually,
Mhm.
in another way, it will work for your betterment of it.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the corporate politics, that what you use the word, it's all about everybody trying to solve the business problem.
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a
Ooh,
whether it's a customer experience, whether it's getting the more revenue for the company, whether they want to get in a competitive advantage in the market. Everybody is trying to do the same goal, right? But in a different way because of
mm-hmm.
different, right? So once you understand that we're all aligned to the same goal for the making the business a successful business, then everybody, and once you start collaborating, cross collaborating with them, at the end of the day, politics, what you said, will work for the betterment of everybody.
That's such a great perspective to have. I see it as kind of like a game. My favorite thing to do whenever I start a new job is to just sit back and watch. I want to watch. I want to observe how people interact with each other. I want to see like who are the people who get the most stuff done and have like the leaders behind them. I
Yeah.
honestly, I need someone to write a book about like the psychology behind corporate politics because I would be so invested. And I actually want to take us back a little bit because you nudged about this like I think like 37 minutes ago. You witnessed firsthand how major events like 9/11 reshaped the tech landscape, especially with critical infrastructure like data centers. I think at this time when you mentioned it in a pre-interview, you were living in New Jersey, going to work in New York. Reflecting on that period and the decisions that followed, how did experiences like 9/11 influence your approach to resilience, leadership growth, and just risk management overall?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, that was a story back in when I was working for the company called Travelers Insurance. That was the company. So our office was, we used to have a reinsurance as separate entities. So our office was right opposite to Walter Center, the previous Walter
Right.
Center. It's on a Broadway. If you look at it, if you know the New York City, if you're Broadway, you know that office where it is. It's right opposite, right? And, that was a day. My the train what we went to was it's not it's a path train. They call it as a path train. From New Jersey, you take it, in the transit, and then from Newark, you take a path train. Ours was the last path train to reach the World Trade Center at that time, because when we came out, I actually saw the first one already hit, and then we ran for our lives, and we took a ferry from South Seaport, and then we saw the second one fall. So that's all happened, right? That's a very sad story. In terms of resilience, how it changed, right? That entire incident has changed quite a bit in terms of the mentally. It took me some time for me to come back, right? But
Yeah.
what it gave me the resilience is we had our I don't call it as a data center, but we used to have our own. Back in those days, every office has their own closet, right? They have some room, the data room, and they used to run those. You know, when I came back in the night, in the evening, I got a call from my boss. First of all, asking about my safety and what, right? Everybody, that's making sure that everybody is safe. The second is business. How do we make sure that we run our business, right? And we never gave up, right? We actually went to Philadelphia, SunGuard data center. That's the SunGuard is a company they used to give the data center as a lease. You can do your disaster recovery there. And now everybody kind of have their own data centers, or now it's more of a cloud. But that time people have their own data centers, and they use SunGuard as one of the partner for doing the disaster recovery. So I've never done disaster recovery. Probably my team never done disaster recovery, true disaster recovery. We did a couple of tests, but
Mhm.
that's when we said we need to run our business and what best we can do. And then my leadership was in a call around, probably I remember, around 11 o'clock in the night. And then they said we have to go to Philadelphia and start our disaster recovery. So when we went to Philadelphia, this is how perseverance and you were consistently resilient comes into the picture. When we went to Philadelphia, there are so many customers waiting in the line in the sun guard because everybody got a
Mm.
similar situation. We have absolutely no idea where to go, chaotic situation, and then we never gave up. We team was strong team, even though we have so many chaotic situation going on, family side, and in the country, so much happening. But everybody determined to bring up the systems, making sure that we do the disaster recovery exercise, not exercise, disaster recovery to bring up our systems, making sure as insurance company again, right? Maybe we don't know. Maybe that time that insurance is also pretty critical for that. So what we did was we waited for 36 hours to
Wow.
get our ticket coming to it, because they are prioritizing government jobs as the first one. Second one is health, the healthcare, public service sectors, and then comes to private and like ours, right? So 36 hours we waited. Uh, and then we continuously worked probably another 24 hours nonstop. People
Wow.
worked for bringing up our systems, and we ran our systems from Philadelphia for almost 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So never give up, right? The other thing I'll tell you is if we lost our data tapes in the same, we used to send it to offshore, offsite,
Yeah.
our data center. So we only have whatever we have, we brought it up, but we need to make it sure that we have to have a current data. So our CIO went and met New York City Mayor, that time Mayor Giuliani, and special request to get those tapes back after 1 week, and then we restored it again. So it's a big story, but what happened is, what the thing here is that people were really aligned to the business, even though a lot of things happen. It's more of a resilience, and people are determined to do the job, and it paid off. So that's
Wow. That's a incredible story, and it's also what a unique event that happened in the life, but the way
yeah,
that
yeah,
how you work with the company in order to, like, move things forward, just, like, staying strong,
yeah.
that's incredible. That it's one of those things where, in my mind, you don't know what you're capable of until you actually just do it.
No, that's the right way to say. You don't know what you're capable of,
Mhm.
because when I saw the first time, when I came out of that train station, that I thought my life is done. Right, that's what you see, because that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
When I saw in a ferry and like two towers are collapsing, same thing happened. I thought it's done.
Wow.
From there to a week later, we were able to bring up our systems, businesses. We are able to run, and our business was able to do whatever transactions from an insurance point of view. Power of you don't know what you're capable of, like I
Yeah.
said. At one point a week ago, we are completely don't know what to do, and week later we are able to bring up the business, and that's super important, right? Things
Yeah.
like that happen when you are back into the business is the most critical.
That's amazing. Wow.
So what that helped me to build, every time later on, that every time I build my systems or transformation, we do is making sure that resilience, right? We're making
Mhm.
sure that they're resilient. That also helped me to build a security, secure, resilient, and scalable businesses. That's what we need to do. That
That's
part may be a lesson for me. That's like, I don't know, 26 years ago, but
yeah.
24, yeah, 24, 25 years ago, but yes.
Wow. But now let's shifting to the future. And I know we're coming up at time. Do you have time for a few more
Mm,
questions?
good. Go ahead.
Okay. Between RPA, robotic process automation, for those listening who aren't familiar with that. So between RPA, AI, and blockchain, which of these technologies do you see delivering the highest return on investment over the next 2 years, and why?
Uh, I don't think we need to compare.
Ooh,
The beauty here is that we have to leverage the technology. I think I mentioned what business problem we're going to solve. That's how we need to look at it.
mhm,
So if you look at in a supply chain, um, if you're talking about a blockchain for traceability, right? Where if you can trace your shipment, your deliverables, that will be used by blockchain, for example.
mhm.
If you want to make sure your intelligence built on your data, then AI predictability is where it's going to use. So it's a mix and match. You need to leverage which one is going to solve your business problem. I don't see one is better than the other one, but AI has a lot of capabilities, potential we can do. But definitely, it's technology leveraging is probably key for the business solving problem. Not just one is better than other.
Once again, admire your perspective because it's true. Like, they're all coming, just figure
Yeah.
out how to use them for the best of your needs. Out of curiosity, can blockchain be used to reduce storage cost?
Storage cost. I
Yeah.
don't think storage cost is used with the blockchain.
No.
I've not used it, but I need to look at into that.
Yeah, I wanna look
I see the blockchain is used as a traceability, but
yeah, for traceability, yeah. I don't know, that thought just came into my mind because I'm familiar with blockchain, and I've actually my I need a future in which, the real estate industry, has blockchain technology incorporated.
mm,
But I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's too archaic and no one wants to change that. But how do you think how should CIOs
mhm.
establish guardrails to democratize AI and avoid rogue usage across enterprise systems?
I think you answered the question. So, how do you CIOs AI applications or get an ROI out of it?
Mhm.
Guardrails is a key. I think you
Okay.
mentioned well. Because at the end of the day, when you make a decision with AI, you should be able to explain it. Right?
Mhm.
You should be able to see how we made the decision, why we made the decision. That only possible if you have a guardrails in place. AI has so much of potential. It can scale unprecedented data with the speed. But if we don't have a guardrails, that guardrails can be depending on your business needs. Right? It can be your own guardrails for your own what we're trying to do. Financial industry. It can be healthcare side, your own guardrails you can do. But once you have the guardrails built in, you probably see more value with the AI rather than building something which we don't have a guardrail. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to fail your application building AIs. You want to have a return on investment. For CIOs, ROI is the most critical part of it, what we develop, what we deploy
Mhm.
for that. So if you are making a decision, healthcare decision, 90 of them you made a right decision. The 10 you made a bad decision because you don't have proper guardrails in it, then you are probably ruining somebody's life, healthcare.
Oh, good point.
Right. So for me, that's super important. So I also keep telling people that you need to have a HITL, human in the loop, in certain areas. Right?
Mhm.
You can do all kinds of data, you can do all kinds of predictability, but at the end, I would say somebody has to look at it and make an approval. That will be much more valuable to the company for sustainability for a long term.
No, that makes perfect sense. And for high performing IT professionals who are early in their careers, so going back to the individual contributors,
Mhm.
what are some key areas that they should focus on now for future leadership roles in digital transformation?
I think one of the key for any individual, anybody, I will tell you, is try to understand the business. Try to
Mhm.
align, what you're trying to do. Does it make sense to align to your business goals? Whether you're an individual you're writing a code, or whether you're administrating any infrastructure, just to make sure that how that is tied up to your business goal. Is it availability, which is helping our business? Is it are we trying to do some customer satisfaction enhancements, right? Are we trying to get a business advantage by innovating something? So try to understand the business, try to align your what you're trying to do, tie up with your business goals. That's one thing. And then always growth mindset, active listening and growth mindset. uh, Try to just be collaborative with all your teams, making sure that you listen to what others are talking about, what others are trying to do. Yeah, these are the key things for anybody to become, from individual contributor to people leader. Again, this is all about soft skills. We can continuously develop these, right? As long as you have those active skills, active listening and growth mindset and curiosity, it will come to you automatically.
I agree with that. I completely it's all about what you bring, that internal
Yeah.
outlook, and then how it's communicated and how it's reflected in your career and in your everyday life. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions to wrap up the
Yeah.
interview? All right. What is one tool or tech you can't live without?
I have to be a little bit of different here, but I love email. I don't know, some people don't like it. Email is outdated now, but email is something that I love it.
Yeah. And what is one piece of advice you'd give your 26-year-old self just arriving in the US?
Now, for 26 old around US,
Mhm, for you, when you arrive for looking back on your younger self, what is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
just to be a learner,
Yeah,
try to learn the things, whether it is a technology, whether it is a life skills or whatever. Try to learn, be a learner for your entire life, and that will take you to places.
and with that, Pareen, thank you so much for an incredibly inspirational and educational interview. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is great. I enjoyed talking to you.
Sure.